What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. We took a little bit of a break. I think we're just like really busy at work. Look at Sean and I. We both like grew big beards. Time to get that. Have you been getting those Manscaped ads or whatever? So time to get something like that to actually trim.
I've been getting a ton of Grant Cardone ads.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why that suddenly just has been smashed into everything I look at. I'm getting tons of ads for it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, welcome back, guys. Today we're going to talk about some like bittersweet stuff. I think we'll talk about some inflation. We'll start that off, and then we'll get into some of the jobs aspects and layoffs. And we'll kind of finish off with a better note. Maybe go into some gossip stuff, as well as finish off with the sports NBA finals. I think we're both a little bit invested in it. Not me, not so much, but Sean, for you,
Very invested, man. Very invested.
Celtics are killing it out there. So anyway, we'll start off. I think the whole inflation numbers that came out. I mean, you can see from today's market, it's been down like it's almost like every other day, I guess. But today there's actually something supposedly holding it, which is month over month it went up 1%, I believe, right? It's at what, like 8% or something now?
Yeah, it's over 8. Yep. So it's pretty bad. It's looking actually really bad, frankly. And I think the bigger issue isn't just that the number is large, it's that the number is not really even true. Like from the perspective of the fact that CPI is not really looking at everything, right? It's like it's doing its best to look at certain things, but I think the bigger issue is the fact that we just can't get it under control or predict it. I mean, you can predict that it's going to be bad, but you have a plan. But when you have a plan, it's not working and you're predicting wrong. Those are not great for the average person. And I think a lot of people out there don't pay attention to this kind of stuff because it's not taught in schools. So there's this moment where I look at this and I'm just thinking this is when you get pounded at the pump. This is when you go food, you get in your car, which costs you more. Insurance is costing more and interest rates are going up. So now you got to drive to the supermarket, but you got to get gas, which is way up. And you got to buy food, which costs more than ever. And you start looking at it, it's like, more and more and more. It's just, you got to stand back and wonder, what's the plan here? How is this going to get better for the average person? And it's really a brand new tax on.
I heard you say that before. That's a good call.
Yeah, it's a tax on the working class who can't make a living because they're getting pounded from every conceivable angle of their entire life, like energy, food, housing. Like those are pretty basic things that you should have some degree of ability to again, man. I'm a hardcore capitalist guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I make my money in the markets, but if people can't pay for anything, it's going to hurt the markets. It's going to hurt entrepreneurs. So that's the whole problem,
I don't know, man. I hate to say it, but I kind of saw this shit coming just because I think I was talking to Drew. I think it was 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago, and I was like, I feel like we're not going to really know what the fuck was going on until maybe sometime July-ish. I mean, it could be further. I'm not a psychic, but the reason I went with it is because I'm not too well versed in the whole market economics and macro and stuff and how to read it for the most part. What I usually do is I talk to my network, right? So I go into my Instagram or Facebook, or it's mostly LinkedIn, and I just talk to people. Hey, how do you feel about this and that? And I only got that because I spoke. I have a few friends who are brokers before, so so they're just talk to the sentiment. So get the sentiment, whatever. But once I got that, that's the same way how I started investing in Tesla. I started talking to people around me, and I'm like, these guys don't even know about the company, so I'm going to put in money. But in this case, it's like everyone's going out now. It's summertime, right? So people are going out there. They're about to travel. And we just came back from years, and especially where I am in Canada, in Toronto, years of lockdowns, right? Our lockdowns just ended, I think, 4 months ago. So now's the time when people are actually trying to go out. They're trying to spend more money. A lot of times they were kind of saving, but they were buying online. Now they want to do activity services, go out camping, cottaging, whatever the case is. Go to the movies. Movies are open, all this stuff. So I feel like even though people didn't realize it back then because they were ordering everything online, now when they actually go to the store and actually try to buy it, they'll noticeably see the difference, and that will curb people. It'll make people save more, I think is what it is. So for me, peak summer, July, I feel like that's when we'll start to get real signs of what is actually going to happen moving forward.
Well, I mean, I think Necra just dropped a comment in here, which is right on, which is he was thinking about buying a Tesla, and then before he knew it, the price already went up by quite a bit there, 6,500, and I think that's what we're seeing is not only are inventories low, but you're paying way more to get the things you want. So you wouldn't, if you're not out in the market to buy a car, you wouldn't know that car prices have gone up. Why would you? You're not in the market to do it. Same thing with houses, same thing with mortgage rates, same thing with apartments, right, etc. I think that's the whole big thing here is
Yeah.
it's easy for inflation to feel like it doesn't matter when it's on certain things. Like you may not notice that your electricity or gas bill goes up by $1 a month, right? But when you go to the pump on a
Yeah. Yeah.
Tuesday and you go 3 days later and it's way more, like that's when it gets wild. You know what I mean? Like that's the stuff that starts to hit you in the pocket. And then to your point, like this sort of feeds into the air conversation we were having before we kicked it off, I guess. But like it's the ripple effect of like less people going on vacation, less people spending money when they're on vacation, more eating at
Yeah.
home, less eating out. Then that starts to hurt again the local businesses in your area. There's sort of this weird, this like ongoing issue that's been happening now for a little while, where like it started with COVID, everything went down, crushed small businesses, crushed the working class, and now we're still getting crushed because the solution was to throw people a meaningless amount of money. And I want to be clear, I'm not insinuating that $1,400 didn't help people. I have no doubt there were a lot of people that really needed that badly, but that $1,400 has turned into now throwing money at a fire and wondering why the fire got bigger. It's like, well, because you gave it more fuel to work. So now we're in a position where we've got these insane inflation numbers. The only way to make it better is to really hammer down on the numbers, and like this is when you start having austerity conversations. I realize Shabari just jumped, but I'll just keep on the topic here. Before the episode kicked off, one of the things we were talking about was this idea of all these big corporate layoffs and how like there was a news story that came out this morning specifically around this idea of cybersecurity firms are starting to do layoffs and freezing hiring. And the irony of it was that what a total joke it is that while they're all seeing these crazy good profits, expansion in the business, and frankly, a dire need because of ransomware, security threats, cyber threats, there is no lack of demand for these companies. These are a lot of decisions that are being made uh, at a stock-based level, right? Like when you think about the largest security firms out there, right, who are doing layoffs, it's not like the threat has gone away. It's just that we're so focused on making sure we're hitting the bottom lines and we're hitting our stock estimates and we're hitting all that stuff. That's the biggest problem, you know. Um, I just yeah, Necroman, like same thing here. Like the 30% jump in gas just in 2 months. You know, I don't care how little or how much you drive, like 30% more of anything is going to be a lot because it has to come from somewhere. Maybe it means you save less in your retirement or you don't put money towards your kids' college or whatever, but like it's going to happen somewhere and it sort of has to happen. I see it where like I don't do the majority of food shopping. So, you know, when I occasionally do have to go and pick up groceries or something like that, that's when it really hits me. It's like, you know, a small basket of stuff is now $60, $70. And you start to think about the fact of like, wow, man, you know, like I'm getting close to 40, and I can remember when I first started driving, gas was, you know, well under $1. You could go and fill up two shopping carts for $100. Now it's like $100 is like a hand carriage of some fresh fruits and stuff like that. So it's getting wild faster. I think that's the bigger problem. Um, so I don't know. It's going to be concerning. It's going to be hard to see what's going on. Um, what's going to happen here in the future. And I think probably the bigger concern, at least for me anyways, is really this issue of like, what are we going to do when the solution feels really bad to, hey Shabari, I kept rolling with it. So I think one of the things that, you know, we were talking about before he jumped off there, and Neko brings it up as well, is it's not just like things are
Go for it,
going up
man.
a little bit. Yeah, hey, Drew. Things are going up fast, right? Gas is up huge amounts in a short period of time. Food is up a huge amount in a short period of time. But the problem with really high inflation, whether it's 8.6 like being reported or way more when you consider all these other things, I think the problem is the only real way we get around inflation is um, with interest rate hikes. But the problem is the interest rate hikes also make other things worse, right? Like it's easy to be like, man, we got to get control of gas, we got to control food, we've got unemployment issues. So what do we do? Okay, well, we have to raise interest rates. Makes a ton of sense. People tend to save more if the interest rates are higher. But now, I know Shabar, you're going to talk about this anyways, but now you're talking about more expensive to buy a car, more expensive to buy a
Yeah.
home, rates raising across the board, which means then you have housing and car prices coming down. So I don't know if you want to add to that. And Drew, thanks for jumping on, man. We're just really we're hashing on like these near term massive increases in price combined with this insane CPI number.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna get this under control. Like it's crazy. But like we were saying, like you buy like a little shopping cart, and it's like $100. I know we went on vacation. We barely got anything. It was like 120. It was like, geez, man.
It's wild.
Yeah, I think I went to Home Depot like yesterday. Got like 4 things and it cost me about $80-$90.
I think what I sort of realized, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever it was, and I've seen it continuously get worse, is like you basically almost can't seem to do anything for less than $100.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is like it's easy in the macro to think like, well, 100's not that much money, but if every time you leave your house it costs you $100, like, if you start to think about the gas and the food and the coffee and the dinners and the groceries or whatever it is, it's just like you just can't avoid spending more money, and there's no paycheck inflation going on, right? So just as an example, like I work in sales. We're living and breathing by what's being sold, and when all of our customers are cutting headcounts or freezing hiring or not spending on technology, that means that like not only are you making less, it's in an environment where you need to make even more. So like you're getting the double whammy of like not getting that income from there as well. Which funny, I'll let you guys take over for a second here, but I tweeted something the other night, basically around like there's no reason you shouldn't look for a new career or focus on a new job or earning more money, and I'm a firm believer in that. And one of the things I really want to call out to, I'm glad we're doing this today, it's good timing, is one of the reasons why, especially a lot of people want to get into sales, but tend to be like nervous about it. Like, hey, I'm not a good sales rep. I'm not that smart. I've never done it before. I don't like making phone calls. Like, I'm telling you, there's one secret to this that like more people need to hear. You need you need to be selling mission critical things, and then CPI, inflation, risk, layoffs, none of that stuff matters anymore. Like the stuff that I work on is like deep mission critical type stuff where like you cannot run your company at a global level unless you have deep integrated solutions in and around data. But the one thing I would add is everyone can do this. So like, if anyone's out there thinking like, I want to get into this, about how it's like, dude, you got to take a shot. So I know that's off topic, but I want to share that because I was thinking about it last night. Like absolutely go for it and try out new things and whatever. And the beauty of that is if you get good at knowing how to do business development and sales, it's very easy to start your own thing or grow your own brand or your own company or your own name or whatever. So
Sure.
Anyway, I know you were having some Wi-Fi problems there. What are you seeing down in your neck of the woods as far as inflation? I know you bought a car recently, and we were talking about this a couple weeks ago that I did as well. What's your take on this number that came out today?
I mean, it's higher than last one, right? It was like 8.3, and now it's 8.6.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's hard to tell, and we feel like everything's inflated. Like groceries are more expensive. Everything's more expensive. It doesn't seem like it's like outrageous, but it definitely hurts when I go to the gas pump and it's like 120, 125. And I know our work truck, I had someone go fill it up the other day. It was 125, and that's when it stops. Then you have to restart it.
Up, man.
I haven't
gas is another thing altogether. I know.
Oh my gosh, it's worse. It's the worst. But it's I guess it's not that bad here as far as what I can see. But I've definitely seen that it's harder to save. It's harder to save now than it was a year ago.
So it's funny, like I never ended up doing anything with it, but I had this idea a while back for like this personal finance site, and I bought I might even butcher the own name that I bought, but it was called like death by 1,000 swipes, meaning like the swipe of a credit card, and it was sort of course it was a play on words of like the reality that it's never like one big thing that feels like it's going to hurt you. It's the fact that like before you know it, like every time you open up your wallet, it's an extra $3, $4, $5 that comes out extra every time. And then you start extrapolating it over a year, over 2 years, over 5 years, 10 years. And it's like, wow, it's just, the losses just start to be so obvious of like, you're getting no extra return. Like the gas, it's not better gas. It doesn't get you further. It doesn't help your car more. It's just costing you more.
I've noticed a little bit of shrinkflation too. Like, there's a coffee shop that I go to all the time, and they were doing 12-ounce bags, and now they're only doing 10, and it's the same exact price. Same exact price.
It's tough. It's tough because it's sort of like it's weird. It's this weird scenario where like I look at it from a standpoint of like, like my son's a smart kid, so he asked me questions about this, like what's inflation, what does this mean? And we were actually sitting somewhere having dinner the other night, and we were thinking how like, like you maybe it's $30 for a steak dinner. But it comes out, it's a big piece of steak and you get some sides. It's, it's a good meal. Like you don't do it all the time, but it's a nice treat once in a while type of thing. I'm noticing that like the same meal maybe is $30, Drew, like you said, but now all of a sudden it's not a 12 ounce, it's like an 8 ounce or 10 ounce even or whatever. And I was talking to my buddy, his parents own a pretty big Italian restaurant, and he was telling me that like they've stopped serving steak plates because it's so much money that they don't feel right charging so much to their customers who've been paying them for years. And that's exactly what you just described is like, I mean, look for me, the most obvious thing ever here, it's sort of like such a barometer for what's going on, is when the dollar store now is $1.25. That's when the S has hit the fan. I mean,
Yep.
Like a lot of people out there need that low price point to make ends meet, right? And it doesn't matter why that's the case or what. It's just the point that is the case. And it's so easy on surface level. I think when you don't look at numbers, to be like, well, it's only a quarter. It's like it's 25%. It's not a quarter. It's 25%. That's a huge increase. I mean, your income's not jumping by 25%. I don't care where you shop, But I don't know. So it goes. Listen, on a totally different note, that's really, really, really more important than CPI, more important than finances, more important than food and housing. It's the fact that the Celtics are going to win this NBA championship, and I can't wait for it to happen. And I'm very excited about it because I remember it from when I was a kid. So we're gonna bring it back, and it's going to be amazing. That's the thing that I'm most focused on for the next week or two here.
What has it been, man? Like 12 years since? 12 years, right?
It's been a little while. Yeah, I remember watching Pierce. Oh my God, KD and Paul like going off. No, and Ray going off and just crushing Rondo just letting the ball roll up and down the court with like just amazing moves. But it was funny because I was watching even like the commercials, and this is just a really funny commercial thing. Have you seen the commercial for Mountain Dew that they keep playing during the playoffs?
I haven't seen it.
So it's like a really stupid commercial. It's got Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and essentially at the end it's just like do. And like I'm literally at the store with my kid the next day, and he's like, "Dad, I want a Mountain Dew." I'm like, "It worked, nailed it, absolutely nailed it." Never even happened before. I was like, "That commercial has nailed it."
Yeah, the commercials during sports events are the best. I think like it's so funny because like I watch I have like American channels, so I watch like the NBA on that, but then I also have the Canadian ones, and it's the Canadian ones are the most muted things you guys can tell. Okay, like if you came up here, you'd be like, "How the hell does this advertising work on anybody?" It works, but it's funny. But the American commercials are the best, man. It's like these guys really put in a lot of time in their creative and stuff. So hey, kudos to them. But yeah, man, I think, dude, like I gotta call this out though. Like honestly, well, this is the one reason why I stopped watching it too. Because like, man, the officiating is so bad. I still feel like the NBA officiating is the worst out of all professional sports. It's like it's really bad, and people are always like, "Oh, no, you got to give these guys some credit." No, you like there is so much of a narrative being played in some of these games, like. I remember in past years, Golden State used to get like crazy calls, and you're like, "What the fuck is that shit?" Right? Like in the previous game 3. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason, like they might have won or lost. All I'm saying is like, they control the momentum almost in a way, right? And to me, it's so evident, like it's so obvious. And I don't care if Golden State wins, I don't care if Boston wins. I literally stopped watching basketball a while ago, right? For me, I just want a good game. I love the sport. But you could tell it's like one team is allowed to be aggressive, the other team is not allowed to be aggressive. And it's like, holy shit, it's really odd, right? So for me, it stands out. And to be honest, like it kind of speaks a little bit to like, I don't know how the series is going to go. To me, it still seems pretty even. I still think it's pretty even.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it'll still be a pretty like solid, close, tight games all throughout. But I could see Boston edging it out very easily, not because of the calls, but just the way the like momentum starts to swing. I feel like it's going towards Boston's way now.
I think part of the problem is like it started off with like, a little bit of, and maybe an extra half step, maybe carrying the ball a little bit. Now these guys are just basically walking up and down the court.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a joke. There's some calls where you're like, that was like 4 steps without dribbling the ball. And even like just to call it out, like Draymond Green, he has had multiple instances during the playoffs where he should have been hit with technical fouls and wasn't.
For sure.
Screaming in refs' faces, continuing it after the play's already over. And the announcer literally said, well, look, they would never call a technical foul on him. He's a star. And I'm like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't believe this is like a thing that we all just accept, right? That's the problem. Like, and it's like this everywhere else too, in other sports leagues, but it's a little bit less so, because like in basketball, they're just like it's a possession every game. It's not like one team is playing defense for 20 minutes or whatever, right? Or like even like I think the closest thing would be like hockey, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. But if you look at hockey, it's fairly fair. Like it's there's some really dumb calls for sure, but it's like you can make an argument that it's pretty fair for the most part. But with basketball, you're right. This whole star situation, and to go to the other side, I can't like it's funny to me. I don't know like how you feel, Drew. Probably like if you watch basketball a lot or not, but it's like these guys are fucking huge. They're huge, and it's like they're complaining and they're flopping about fouls, and some of them have the gall to talk about soccer. Stop it, the guy. You look like a fridge. Like, you're not hurt. Stop. Like, you know what I mean?
This is perfect point. Like during towards the end of the game the other night, there was a tussle for the ball, and Horford ended up coming down. Let's be honest. I watched that 10 times. It was come on. He kind of came down a little bit on Curry's foot and leg. And he's grabbing his ankle and screaming, and they're like, "Oh my God, he might be injured." It's like, you make $50 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay? You jumped for the ball on the ground, and someone jumped after it and fell on you. Listen, then don't jump on the ground. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like $50 million a year, and I have to listen to like complaints about, butt heads bumping together about doing this stupid stuff they're doing. It's like, you're making $50 million to play. You better be.
I know.
Ball.
No, hey, listen, I know, like, but with that incident, I thought it was like it was definitely Curry put himself in that position. I mean, he, it happens. It's a tussle. It's sports, right? You're gonna go for the ball, but like, to be honest, I would like if that was me, I would do it too, right? Like, I'd jump for the ball too. But then if someone like, I wouldn't sit there and whine about the fact that someone jumped on me or whatever, right? It just is what it is. Like, I mean, that's not. I don't think Curry was complaining, but it was just Draymond that made a big scene about it, and it is. It is.
No, I know that. I'm not saying it even was. I'm just saying it's the point that, like, we can't have a single play where there isn't a complaint about a call or complaint they didn't get a call.
Is the problem? That's you're right.
Every single play ends with this. What?
Yeah.
What? It's like, you guys are playing basketball. Like, how, man? Like we're a big lacrosse family, so like we watch lacrosse, and these guys are going out there. Some of these dudes are huge.
Yeah.
Full force, double-handed, smashing each other with lacrosse sticks.
Oh yeah.
And there's zero penalties are ever called. And it's like, you guys are bumping into each other. And to your point, man, like, we're not, it's only like 6'7", 220 pounds, man. This is not a small human, The flopping, I think, I'll say this to be fair for a second, although I absolutely despise the flopping.
Yeah.
But like, this is like the definition of like, it's not a business. They're their own business, right? We're like players building their brand and their own company. But there is, to me, I don't know if I'll catch flack for saying this or not, but like, there is a part of me too that's so frustrated in the fact that they all have their own companies on the side. They're all now suddenly have their own venture capital firms and their clothing brands. And there's this feeling of like, thanks, Necro. Thanks for stopping by. There's this feeling of like, no regular person can really have their own company, because now you're competing with a famous basketball player who's going to start, his or her own brand of clothing, or venture capital firm or private equity firm. Like, I don't begrudge anyone, but like, who is putting money into this? Like, and that's the problem. Like, if I want to start a private equity firm tomorrow, 20 years in the industry, I'm an angel investor, massive track record, sold my own company, consult executives in the global companies of the world today on a regular basis, I wouldn't be able to raise any money.
You know why though, Sean? You know the answer, man. You know the answer, and the answer is because people love stupid money. And I'm not saying all of them are stupid.
No, it's true.
But they have money that's coming in. millions of dollars, definitely way more than any of us are making, right? So for example, when it comes into them, they're like, hey, these guys might not know a lot about business, so let's pitch them this idea. And at the end of the day, you're betting on a salesperson talking to a person that knows nothing about what they're trying to buy.
Well, so it's because like, and this is the value of like the branding. Let's say I'm a wealthy individual. I want to put my money into a private equity fund. Do I put it into Drew's fund because he's got 30 years of experience?
Yeah.
Or do I put into Shabari's fund, but then I get to meet Steph Curry at every single event?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, wow, wouldn't that be cool to show pictures of me hanging out with Curry and whatever?
Right. Right.
Like, it's the same reason why you see it with like, I saw a really funny one the other day. Someone got lit up on Twitter. It was actually hilarious. Some guy was like, "Oh, I was at a VC party and I ran into the Chainsmokers," and the Chainsmokers reacted with, "That was our VC party and we invited you," basically lighting them up. But of course, the takeaway to me was like, "You guys have a venture capital firm? Like what? Like, and you know what? This is exactly why we have this recurring implosion in the markets, where normal people can't just save for retirement and education because." Like we pay so much. And by the way, this is a whole bigger conversation about like the reality of wealth and pay,
money, money.
Where it's like, well, I'm a musician, but I want to be taken serious, so I'm going to start.
Of course.
Firm. It's like, okay.
Oh, I think the worst of all of this. You guys know Shaq, right?
Of course, I know Shaq.
Yeah. So dude, his portfolio is probably the worst because he owns. I think there's a video I watched of him. I think it was like 5-6 years ago, and this was before I knew anything. So I was like, wow, what a great successful man. Because he's like, I own JCPenney, I own blah blah blah. What are the similarities between all these companies? And he's like, I own them, right? And now I look at him like, holy shit, all these companies are like bankrupt. It's like. Man, it's I don't know. It's like the definition of stupid money. If you didn't have so much endorsements and stuff coming through, I feel like the guy would be broke as hell.
I mean, like that.
Like even Katie has 35 ventures, and it's like I don't think he's and Katie has the ear of like Chamath and all these other guys who are supposedly amazing people, right? So it's like, how the hell are you exactly not making any like worse returns than the S&P, if anything?
we somewhere along the lines here decided that like. It's better to be famous than to be good at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, but you know why it's a problem though? Because take like the three of us, right? Maybe you invest in a Roth IRA or 401k or the Canadian version. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but like different retirement plans. Yeah. And you don't know all the time where that money is going, what funds it's being put in, especially if you are, I mean, this is even probably a better example. If you are someone who's in a union, right? That money is invested into lots of different asset classes, which is a good idea in theory. But the problem is now it's like it's getting harder and harder to find good quality fund managers because there's so much competition. And it's to your point too, like I'm going to tell you like a really quick story for a second here. This is slightly off topic, but I was in the very top floor of the largest tower in the Western US, right? West of the Mississippi. I was on the very top floor having a meeting. Yep. You're above the clouds, literally. Planes are like going by. Anyone can figure out what that is, but I won't say it out loud. So we're on the very top floor. We're having a really good meeting. And I was looking out the window and I was just thinking to myself, like, I was thinking about scale and like the scale of again, as an investor who is a macro focused investor, and I'm in commodities and currency, and I also, sold a business and I look at global, my job is global based. I was standing there and I was just thinking to myself, like, this is what most people don't see is not the views, but like the perspective of like, there's 10,000 buildings packed with people bringing in revenue for companies. And then there's 10 million houses I can see. Right. And I'm exaggerating, but like you miss the scale a bit of like how massive everything is, yet it's only a blip on the scale of a giant planet, which is a blip on blah, blah, blah.
Right. Yeah.
I think the problem is sometimes when you don't have it, or you don't have a lot, or you're working your butt off and can't get what you want, or like, things feel high. It's very easy to have a mindset of scarcity because scarcity feels like I'm going to protect myself and my family by having a scarcity view. But when you have that abundance view, it's easier to build big, to access capital, to attract capital. But it's so tough for a normal person who's literally working like a 7 to 6 schedule, grinding all day, just trying to make sure they can make the car payments and have something for retirement, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it does get to feel, this isn't a complaint because like I go out and do my own stuff. So I'm just in observation. You can see the frustration of like why when you're working your balls off all day and then you're like, oh, cool, Steph Curry hurt his ankle while making $50 million a year and another $100 million on endorsements. It's like, wow, really? Like I nearly cut my arm off at work the other day, but couldn't take a day off because,
Well, it's the whole adage of hard work pays off, right? Like, coming from, I think we all know we're not exactly like super wealthy, but for the most part, like all our parents would have told us, hey, work really hard, it'll pay off eventually, just keep going, right? Now you're basically going from a quantity over quality perspective, even if it sounds like quality, because you're like, okay, I'm going to work hard, really hard, I'm going to burn myself out at something and hopefully it pays off. And the chances are it might pay off, but what's the payoff, right? It's relative. That's the thing people don't understand. It's like, you can be really good at your factory job and that's fine, but like, how is it really pertaining to the rest of like, what's around you, right? So that's what gives you your payoff. If you're a small cog in a very small machine, your payoff isn't going to be much, no matter how hard you work. Well, and I think that's
Sorry, but just like it's actually a perfect example. And Drew, you're the newest one to this, so this is going to be sort of like a perfect point for you to speak to.
Yeah.
Like, none of us do YouTube in a serious full-time kind of way. We just do it because we do it because it's whatever, right? We like to do it and talk about different things. But like the three of us can come on here. We'll get 40 views on this video, right? Across our entire network. And we're just happy to do it because it's whatever. But now any single actress, model, sports persona can jump on, will have 1 million followers that afternoon, 10 million views, and then they're going to make, $200K a month doing YouTube.
Yep.
And like, Drew, you might be able to come on here and add so much actual real world value. Like, here's how I handle this. Here's how I negotiated this van I just bought. Here's how we do things down here, right? You have actual practical, real world, I live this life, and I can show you how to do better. Creating interesting content that actually adds value. Or like, oh God, I can't think of her name. I have I don't know. Obviously, I don't have any problem with anyone, but like, it's an actress. I can't think of her name. She black hair, Alexandria something or other. There was a show on my feed, and it was literally just her basically like trying on a new dress, and it was like 10 million views. I was like, oh my God, 10 million views. Like, dude. And my point is that I don't begrudge them, but it makes it so tough for a normal person to come on and be like, hey, I want to change my life. I want to create a side hustle. I've got interesting things to say. I'm going to do a YouTube channel because I hear that's a great way to make money. And then you realize, like, no matter how hard you fight, no matter how hard you push, you get 40 views on your video. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, oh man, like I did a video the other day, and I promise guys I'll stop talking, but like, I really put in like a ton of work into this like moonshot video I did. I was really excited about it. Really thinking about like the perspective of how to think more like Elon, more like Bezos, how to think huge, big things.
Yeah.
My average watch time on that is 3 minutes. That means in a 30-minute video, my average viewer watches 3 minutes. I'm like, I'm not even done with the introduction in 3 minutes yet. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get the content.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. And for me, I think the nice thing is, for me, I treat this as just an outlet where I can go and do something that's not work related. But it's true. Like, we're told, Drew, to your point that you made earlier, and Shavar, the one you just made a minute ago, like, hey, work hard, it'll pay off. And even better, if you work hard and you do a side hustle, maybe 2 side hustles, you're really going to pay off. And then you're like, cool, man, I've been doing Uber for 6 months. What did I get? It's like, well, gas went up by 30%. So there goes.
I think that's so, like, speaking back to like being able to save and invest and everything. Like, if you work a factory job, I mean, I work at a paint shop. Yeah. So like every extra dollar I'm like throwing in the markets, and that's why I've been learning options. So I've been learning different strategies like straddles, which I can't use quite yet. That's another thing. And then like selling cover calls and all that, just to be able to get the extra. So I benefit from the stock price going up, and I benefit from taking a little bit of risk. And so like that's why I've been so interested in it. I know I have like some crappy videos about my portfolio, but that's why like I'm super deep into options. I think it's so essential for people, just like regular people, like if they're going to invest, do it well. Don't just throw it into like a random index fund. You don't do any research in it. I think.
Yeah, the leverage is pretty good, eh?
Yeah, and the leverage is good. And like the other day, I was looking at my 401k and I was like, I wish I could manage this so bad, but I can't. It's through like some third party, and I'm like, man, this really sucks. Like I can't touch it, can't do anything. I can just say, oh yeah, go into this fund or move out of that fund. Can't sell options, can't sell cover calls, can't sell anything against it. So,
Drew, just a thought on that note. Like, have you considered doing like a what I've learned so far? You're journeying into options.
No,
you should do it, man. I'll watch it.
I know Amit. I'm in Amit's Discord, and he was talking about. We just started doing the weekly calls. Yeah. So shout out to Amit. But in that, I think me and another guy are going to talk about just like covered calls and basics. But I definitely think that's a good idea. I know this morning or yesterday, I had my camera all set up. I have an EOS RP, like super cool, nice lens and everything for photography. And it was, it's like, man, I should probably use this. I have it just lying around, and I have a microphone. I got everything. So,
well, Drew, do me a favor, right? One more time, just so people can hear it. Say what you do for work again.
I work at I'm a shop manager at a powder coating place. Okay. So basically, we paint metal. That's it.
So, like, I actually, true story. When I was, this is going back now over 20 years. I was a mechanic. I worked at Sayers Automotive. Was a technician. And so, like, I'm a hands-on kind of guy. I just also translate a lot to math. Yep. So, like you, I could have. I can remember getting up at 6 a.m, preparing for it was going to be 100 degrees in the shop all day. Customers screaming at you all day. And this is when
minus the customers.
Yeah, this is like at the end of high school type of deal. And that's when I started literally doing things like, how do wealthy people make money? How do you generate income outside of your job? And that's what got me into a lot of this stuff. And I was entrepreneurial by nature anyways. But my point in saying this is like Drew, you as a perfect example, imagine if you could like get that message out to all the people who do that type of like, I work in a shop all day. I have a fixed income. I just would like to add an extra $100 a week or even a month. Like, I bet the audience for that would be massive, right? And just saw Emmanuel join in. What's up, man? Like, I do my weekly options thing. I haven't been keeping up to date because I've been so busy with work. Yeah. But like, I'm showing how to like generate some pretty serious money on it. But I was really thinking to myself the other day, like, easily, and I mean easily, I could just generate $500 a week with ease and almost no risk. Now, there's always risk. Like, let's be clear, but minimal risk. Saying to myself, like, man, imagine what like an extra $500 a month, let alone a week, would even do for the average person just to put more money away, to pay some credit cards down, to get the van paid off that you just bought. Like, and I think that like everyone and their mothers out there trying to figure out how to like side hustle with Uber and then do that at night. And then you're exhausted the next day at work. It's like, there are so many ways to take advantage and act on the data that's out there, especially like, and for what it's worth too, like I'd be happy to talk through this stuff with you guys too if you ever wanted like a next level up on it. But like, I think like that's the kind of stuff that all the celebrities in the world can come on and talk about. But like their stories sound so interesting, but they're all bullshit. Like yeah, here's how I started my company. Let me tell you.
But you know what it is, man. The problem is like, and I know because like I have family that's exactly like that, and the reality is people don't want to live in reality. They just they want that long shot that they know is not possible, but like somehow they feel like they're living their lives is what I've heard, right? I don't do that stuff because I never cared about celebrities. Like my dad's like that. He knows when George Clooney has scratched his ass. Like he'll know immediately. Like, hey man, did you hear that this happened? And it's like, what the fuck? Who cares, right? But that's how he is. And like, there are people in my family that are like, oh, did you see like the Kardashians and you like blah blah blah? I'm like, no, I don't care. But they want to live in this fantasy world where that makes sense to them. Like, I'll give you an example. To the same person I'm talking about who loves the Kardashians, right? I pitched the whole, I was like, they're like, how do you do your stock stuff? I'm like, oh, look, I can't advise you on stuff, but I'll show you how I did it and how I got off, right? And I got off pretty humble, just like any of you guys in terms of how I got into the market. So I showed them and they're like, oh, but what if the stock goes to zero? I'm like, I mean, like, unless you're going to like a penny stock or something, like I was like, I would suggest, and that's the first, I hear that so many times. They're like, oh, but what if it comes to zero? And then if you tell them, hey, a good return, if you're really like not wanting to invest like, directly, a good return would be what? S&P, you're looking at anywhere between 7 to 10% per year, give or take, right?
Yep.
That would be a fantastic return, right?
You will retire a millionaire.
Yeah, right. So if you tell them, okay, you put $10,000, and I know that's going to be a huge stretch, right? But let's try to put 10,000. I think that's about like 7,000 American or whatever, right? So you put 10K into an account, and let's say in like 3, 4, 5 years you're making around like 10% compounded, right? You show them the amount, it's only like $5,000 more. They're like, that's nothing, right? But you're like, move that over, like go over to 20 years, you're going to retire with hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right, but they can't. For them, it's like, I can't wait that long. What if I need that 10,000 now? Like, no, if it's still sitting in your bank account, you don't fucking need it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem. It's a fantasy. Plus, they don't like the fact that even the small compounded growth it's too small for them. Even though it's like really,
well,
I don't know.
I got to jump in a second, but like, I think the problem is you're comparing it to what you see on social media, which is like, wow, I made $1 million on Dogecoin. It's like, but the story they're not telling is that like you nearly probably went bankrupt, taking every dollar you had, living in your parents' basement, put into it, held it for a long time and didn't touch it. Like, a lot of people have actual bills to pay and things that take care of. I mean, listen, there's people who spend $2 on a Mega Millions ticket and make 300 million too. That's not an investment strategy, but it still is a fact. I mean,
it's a fact.
Like, it's still a fact. I mean, but like, when I got into investing, if you could find a way to make 10%, you were like, well, I'm literally set for life. Now it's like, well, I can make a 400% return. It's like, no, stop it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can also make a 1 in 175 million return playing tickets too, but like, it doesn't mean you're going to win. Anyways, I'll end with this before I jump to a meeting here. Drew, I'd love to see you do a video on what you've learned about options so far, because I bet there's a lot of value in there, man.
I think it will. I'll make it a goal for next week. Make it a highlight of my week.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think we'll cap it off here. I'll catch you guys in the next one then. I think a lot of interesting things happening in the market. I think we're gonna wait and see, but it seems like we're in a really kind of tough gully. So let's see what happens, I guess. Until next time, we'll catch y'all later. Peace.
See you, buddy.